Now, part 2 on what to do when handling the estate of a friend or a loved one. As I mentioned in the last video, we left off with you contacting the family attorney, and the hopes are that that attorney would handle probate on a regular basis. But if that attorney does not handle probate on a regular basis, then the idea would be for him or her to refer you to counsel who does handle probate. And once that does happen, you would contact that attorney with all the information that you've assembled. Once again, remember, if there's a will, the original will, the certified copy of the death certificate, and a listing of all of the assets that you have. And then the next thing that you want to do is be able to provide that attorney with a family tree. Now, the family tree would be those folks that are immediate to the decedent, to around the decedent, and maybe the friends that might be involved in the estate if there's a will. And you want to provide the names, addresses, and telephone numbers of all of those folks that are going to be involved with the estate, along with the names, addresses, telephone numbers of the immediate family. And then what happens from our end as probate attorneys is we assemble all of that information, organize it, maybe make a family chart, and then we'll start to complete what we call the pleadings. Now, the pleadings in Massachusetts, anyway, there's a uniform probate code, and a lot of the other states have adopted the probate code, and those forms have been standardized. And so, usually in the pleadings, we'll have some form of a petition, which I'll explain in a minute. We'll have a bond, which will explain the value of the estate. We'll have a listing of the immediate devisees if there's a will, and a listing of the family of the heirs if there's no will. And there's a couple of other documents that will go with it, some affidavits, but those are typically the main documents of a standard set of pleadings. Now, those documents that I mentioned will be filed with the court along with a certified copy of the death certificate and the original will of the person who passed away, if there is a will. And so there's one of two ways that the attorney can assemble this and file it with the court. In general, if everybody's getting along, then the attorney will file a petition that is informal. And what that means basically is that all of the families in agreement that the estate is going to be filed. They're all in agreement with the person who's being proposed to be the manager of the estate, which is called now the personal representative, used to be called the executor or executrix of the estate. And if everybody's in agreement, then the petition will be filed informally. Now, with an informal filing, what that basically means is that the court will not send out notice to all the parties, and a magistrate will be assigned to the case as opposed to a judge. And when this happens, a lot of the processes of the court are handled administratively. Now, just a reminder that be sure to check out the videos that I've included in the description of this video. If you're watching YouTube, then it's down below. And if you're watching Facebook, a lot of times it's up above. But I provided links to prior videos that are related to this one. Also, be sure to subscribe if you're watching me on YouTube. Subscribe to my channel and like the video if you're watching me on Facebook. Now back to the subject. So there's a second way to file the pleadings. The first we mentioned was informally. The second way is what we call formally. And this is kind of the old way of doing things. When you file a petition formally, that means that in general the family's not getting along, or there's some type of an issue that needs to be heard by a judge. And so when the petition and the pleadings are filed formally, then the court will take action and send what's called a citation, a notice in the mail, which has to be served on all the parties, and there'll be a time frame in which things will happen, a timeline, in other words, in which things will need to happen. And a judge will be assigned to the case. And if the case can't move along with necessary assents, folks that are involved in the estate agreeing upon what needs to happen next, then there'll be a series of hearings that will happen. And a judge will be assigned, and the judge will need to make a decision as to what's happening. Now, if the parties still can't come to an agreement, then that's when everything goes to trial. So in general, those are some of the things that you need to do when handling the estate of a loved one. Now, if you're watching me on Facebook, make sure that you like the video. If you're watching me on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe in the lower right-hand corner. And make sure that you check out the videos that I've included in the description of this video, the links to those videos. They're related to this video. Some of them are shorter. If you're watching YouTube, they'll be below. If you're watching Facebook, they'll be above. And some of my previous videos related to this one will be appearing here if you're watching YouTube. Make sure that you check those out as well too. Dave Ceruolo, CeruoloLaw.com.